Revealing Job's untold secrets, the shocking truth that will leave you shaken forever. In a small town where secrets fester like wounds, whispers of a long-buried truth about Job Miller echoed through the streets. Job, the local carpenter, was just a man to many, but his sudden disappearance one stormy night left a hole in the community. Days turned into weeks, yet no trace of him ever surfaced. They say he vanished into thin air, swept away by the storm that raged outside. Yet, there was more. Reports emerged of strange lights flickering in his workshop, of odd noises in the dead of night, as if Job still lingered amongst the wood shavings and hammers. What did Job know? What drove him to flee? Curiosity crept through the town like a shadow. Subtle hints danced across the murmurs of neighbors, sightings of a mysterious woman near his home, claims of strange glyphs carved into trees, foreboding shapes that no one could interpret. People speculated wildly, inventions fueled by fear and fascination. In backyards and diners, tension thickened like the summer heat, leaving everyone on edge. Then, a tattered diary surfaced, its pages yellowed and frayed. It whispered secrets about a hidden room deep beneath his workshop, a chamber filled with dark artifacts and powerful relics. What kind of secrets did Job hold? As murmurs reached a fever pitch, the town gathered at the local diner, their faces a blend of curiosity and dread. They leaned in, conspiratorial whispers slipping into the air like the steam rising from cups of coffee. Weaving through the frenzy, one brave soul stood up. Old Mrs. Whitaker, shaking but determined, recounted her sighting of Job just days before he vanished. He was different, she gasped, her eyes wide, as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the scrutiny only grew sharper, questions spiraling madly. Who was the woman? What did Job discover in that room? As chilling winds whirled around town, the townsfolk felt an unsettling certainty. They were being watched, drawn toward the secrets that had sat hidden in shadows for too long. They had to find out what held the town captive before it consumed them all. Who was Job Miller really, and what happened to him on that fateful night? The truth waited, just out of grasp, shrouded in mystery and dread. The diner buzzed with nervous energy, a tight knot of tension settling in the air. Every eye turned to Mrs. Whitaker, who clutched an old coffee cup like it was a lifeline. The murmurs grew louder as she wiped a trembling hand across her forehead. Job was seeking something, she continued, voice shaking, something powerful. He spoke of a deal, a pact. The words chilled the room, a shudder threading through the group. They leaned in closer, straining to capture every syllable. Deal? Someone whispered, disbelief mingling with fear. Yes, she confirmed, with forces beyond our understanding. I thought he was just rambling, but her voice trailed off as reality hit the crowd like a cold wave. What if Job was tangled in something dark, something that lured him away from everything he knew? Suddenly, the door swung open. A gust of wind howled through the diner, causing light fixtures to sway. Everyone jumped, hearts racing. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the harsh light of the street lamps outside. It was a woman, her features obscured, but the breathless hush that fell over the diner told 1,000 stories. The woman took a step forward, eyes gleaming like shards of glass. I know where Job is, she announced, her voice a haunting melody that sent a chill down the spines of those gathered. The tension crackled, electric, as the townsfolk exchanged wide-eyed glances. What do you mean? One brave soul asked, pushing fear aside. Who are you? Someone who has followed his path, she replied cryptically. And someone who can lead you to the truth. There was urgency in her words. The room felt like it was holding its breath. They needed answers, and she seemed to hold the key. "What do you know about the chamber under his workshop?" Mrs. Whittaker pressed, her voice steadier now, fueled by desperation. The woman hesitated, and for a moment, doubt flickered in her eyes. "It's not just a chamber. It's a threshold," she finally said. "A doorway to something that was never meant to be opened." Gasps erupted, a ripple of disbelief traveling through the assembly. The weight of her words pressed down like a heavy fog, more stifling with every heartbeat. What could lie behind such a threshold? "We need to find Job," another voice insisted, cutting through the shock. "We can't let whatever it is out." "But what if we're not ready for what we might discover?" Someone else countered, panic rising. The diner erupted into chaos, voices colliding, each person grappling with their internal battle of wanting to know the truth versus fearing the consequences. The mysterious woman raised her hand, silencing the crowd. "I can take you there, but know this, once you enter, there's no turning back." Uncertainty hung heavily in the air. Deep down, they all felt the magnetic pull of secrecy, a dizzying lure of curiosity and dread. "What do we do?" someone murmured as their heart raced with adrenaline. Just then, a thunderous crash resounded from the direction of Job's workshop, a thunderous boom echoing through the still night. The diners jumped from their seats, fear pouring through their veins. "Let us check it out," the woman urged, her voice sharp and commanding. They needed to act now. And as they flooded out of the diner, following her closely, a question loomed large: what awaited them in the shadows of the mysterious workshop? As they neared, the flickering lights began to dim, only to go out completely. Would they find answers, or were they racing toward their doom? The cold night air bit at their cheeks as they hurried toward Job's workshop, hearts pounding in their chests. The darkness seemed alive, creeping closer with every step. Their footsteps echoed against the hard pavement, an anxious tattoo of fear and uncertainty. As they approached, flickering shadows danced across the walls of the workshop, cast by a single, sputtering bulb that dangled from the ceiling. The door hung ajar, swaying gently as if beckoning them inside. The woman, still leading the charge, paused at the threshold, her breath visible in the frigid air. "What will we find in there?" someone whispered, voice laced with dread. "Only the truth," she replied, her eyes glinting with an intensity they couldn't ignore. In a collective rush of determination, they crossed into the gloom, the workshop as familiar, musty scent filling their nostrils. Tools lay scattered, dusty and forgotten, evidence of Job's frantic work routine. But that wasn't what drew their eyes. It was the door at the back, its surface warped and uneven, pulsing with a faint, strange energy. "What's behind that door?" Mrs. Whittaker asked, her voice barely a whisper. The woman stepped forward, hesitation momentarily flickering in her expression. "What lies beyond, is more than you can imagine. It's Job's secret and perhaps his maker." A shiver slid up everyone's spines as she pushed the door open. It creaked ominously, the sound echoing into the darkness beyond. A staircase spiraled down, swallowed by shadow. From below, a low, almost unearthly hum resonated, vibrating with an energy that felt both alluring and terrifying. "This isn't just a chamber," the woman reminded them, her voice grave. "It's a binding place, a prison and a power." "What did he do?" another diner asked, the tremor in their voice betraying panic. "Job sought knowledge. It consumed him." The group exchanged nervous glances, weighing their need for answers against the gnawing fear of the unknown. But curiosity pulled them in, a force hard to resist. With a shared breath, they descended the stairs, each step echoing like sinister whispers. The air grew colder, thick with an oppressive silence. As they reached the bottom, the room opened up before them, a vast, cavernous space lined with symbols carved deep into the stone walls, their meanings lost to time. At the center stood an altar, dark and foreboding. Candles flickered erratically, casting an eerie glow on items strewn around, masks, a book bound in cracked leather, and a small box whispering tales of forbidden power. But it was the low hum that grew stronger, resonating through their bones. It felt like a heartbeat, or maybe something worse. One of them reached for the book, but the woman grabbed their hand, her eyes wide with warning. Don't. You don't know what you're opening. A sudden clash of noise erupted from above as the doors slammed shut. Panic erupted, and they turned, eyes darting to the walls as shadows began to shift and swirl. No turning back now, the woman said, fear breaking through her confident demeanor. We must confront what has been unleashed. But they were not just facing shadows. They were faced with whispers of Job, his actions ricocheting through the chamber. The weight of his choices pressed against them like a living entity. Job, Mrs. Whitaker called into the darkness, her voice cracking. Are you here? Silence fell, thick and suffocating, until a shadow began to materialize at the edge of the light. A figure roused from beyond the threshold. The flicker of recognition washed over them in terror, and they cried out in unison. Job! But was he truly here, or just a remnant of what had been? As the darkness closed in, the question rang loud, what had Job really unleashed? What specters of power awaited their trembling hearts? The figure stepped further into the light, its outline jagged and indistinct. Job's face was a mask of sorrow and terror, flickering in and out of clarity, as if caught between this world and another. The group stood frozen, unwitting participants in a morbid spectacle. Was he the man they once knew, the one who had broken bread with them in jovial fellowship? Or was he now something else, a facade bearing the weight of his sinister knowledge? Job! Mrs. Whitaker gasped, stepping forward. What have you done? Her voice trembled, filled with a maternal panic. Job's features twisted as if wrestling with untold horrors. I needed to know, he stammered, each word dragging behind it a weight that seemed to anchor him deeper into the shadows. The book, it showed me things, powers beyond our comprehension, but I was blind to the cost. Cost? The woman's voice pierced through the haze of confusion. What did you sacrifice? With that question, the atmosphere thickened, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Shadows coalesced around them, growing in intensity, swirling like an approaching storm. The chilling hum transformed into a low growl, deep and primal. It was alive, thrumming with something dark and ancient. Suddenly, the walls began to shimmer, the carvings lighting up, revealing grotesque images of despair, faces twisted in agony, hands reaching out in vain. The chamber resonated with their silent screams, an echo of Job's folly reverberating through time. It wasn't just me, Job trembled, a flicker of remorse sparking in his eyes. I unleashed something I couldn't contain. It hungers, it craves more than I could give. The group took a collective step back, a chill sweeping through them. Then what are we doing here? Another voice cried, panic creeping back in. We can't be a part of this. What's done is done. Job shouted, a mix of desperation and fury igniting his eyes like flashes of lightning. You're all here, and you must understand the power binds to the willing. It had to be a sacrifice. I never thought it would come to this. A realization washed over the group like cold water. They weren't just witnesses, they were potential vessels for that unbridled energy. You brought us here to what? To make us part of this nightmare? The woman demanded, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath. We can stop it. Job pleaded, his voice cracking, but we can't leave, not until the essence is contained. The shadows twisted into grotesque forms, stretching towards them, fingers that clawed at reality. A frantic energy charged the air, choking, pushing against their will. They stumbled back together, looking wildly as illusions morphed into haunting visages, figures draped in shadows, eyes glowing with a hunger that ignited the depths of their fear. What do we do? Someone whispered, panic flooding the group again. Job raised a hand, desperate to command the chaos. You must choose, face the essence or succumb to it. Your heart will guide you through the darkness. As he spoke, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around their feet, pulling them toward the altar as reality splintered beneath them. The candles flickered violently, light fighting their retreat, illuminating faces revealing every fear they had hidden in the depths of their souls, but Job's face suddenly morphed, a look of fierce determination etched into his expression as he cried out, it has to be you. Now, adrenaline coursed through every pulse, a countdown to a decision no one was prepared for. Together, they reached deep into the heart of their anguish, but would the strength of their bonds be enough? And as they grasped at the choice ahead, would they become the saviors or the damned? A loud roar echoed through the chamber, a shriek that rattled the essence of their beings. The darkness shuddered, revealing glimpses of the choice that lay before them. What would they sacrifice to break Job's curse? And as the shadows beckoned with a voice of temptation, they realized, the true test was about to begin. The shadows pulsed like a living heartbeat, intensifying as if responding to their fear. A cold rush of air swept through the chamber, sending chills racing across bare skin. The group huddled together, a fortress of quaking bodies, each member wrestling with their own dread. Job. Mrs. Whitaker's voice rang out again, trembling but strong, like a thread attempting to tether them to sanity. You need to tell us everything. What does it want? Job's eyes darted back and forth, flickering between pleading and dread. It's always been here. In the walls, in the earth. It feeds off darkness, our darkness. A reluctant silence wrapped around them, hearts pulsing hard against fear. The grotesque images on the walls writhed almost impossibly, echoing Job's words. They seemed alive, almost recognizing the shards of buried guilt and wavering hope nestled in each soul present. Then it knows us. Someone blurted out, voice breaking. The words hung, like a specter of doubt, feeding the anxious tension encasing the room. It knows what we've done. The shadows, now fully animated, dashed forward, their claw-like hands brushing against ankles and feet. A collective gasp erupted, blending with the staccato beats of frantic hearts. A figure stepped closer, an apparition clad in past sins, a transparent mirage of buried regrets. Face it. Job shouted, desperation warping his features. What if we don't? Replied a young man, his voice trembling. The question lingered, heavy with implication. If they chose to turn away, to succumb, would they become something worse? The air crackled sharply as the entity intensified. It roared again, a guttural sound rising from the very depths, shaking the chamber. Shadows twisted more violently, revealing once hidden faces, friends, family, people they didn't care to remember. Each visage bore witness to every mistake, every shame they had tried to forget. The walls pulsed again, and Mrs. Whitaker fell to her knees, overwhelmed, hands clutching the ground. I can't face that, she gasped, tears spilling over. Needing strength is not weakness. Job cried, stepping closer to her, urgency lacing his gaze. Standing together is the only way. The essence wants to divide us. But doubt seeped into their hearts. Could they trust him? A flicker of the very darkness they grappled with crept closer to the surface, clouding clarity, blurring intentions. Someone stepped back, arms raised in protest. How do we even know you're still you? No. You can't think that. Job reached desperately for his friends, pleading eyes searching theirs. I'm still here. Don't let it take you. You have to see it will turn us against one another. Suddenly, a booming voice cut through the chaos, resonating with the weight of ages. Your choices echo beyond time, entwining fates among the lost. What will you give, O weary souls? The weight of the inquiry suffocated them. All eyes shifted nervously. What were they willing to sacrifice in return for survival? In the dim light, each person felt the primal urge of survival warring against long-held secrets and desires. Could they lay their vulnerabilities bare? The darkness surged forward, wrapping impossibly tighter, lowering around their throats until it felt like a noose. They gasped for clarity, wrestling against the inescapable pull. Choose. Job's voice rose above the chaos, fierce and unyielding. Your love, your fear, give it to the darkness and watch it burn away. Together, we can claim our light again. But could they truly cast off the shadows that basked in their fears? As the anguished whispers wrapped tighter, a deep rumble filled the air, the hungry void called for its due. One last chance remained. Would they find strength in surrender, or risk everything by facing down their intertwined destinies? The choice lingered, poised like a pendulum, ready to swing. And in that critical moment, the ground beneath them cracked, a sharp cry of despair echoing as new shadows formed darker, hungrier than before. Would they stand and fight or be swallowed whole? The true horror now lay ahead. Only one option would allow them to uncover exactly what lies beneath Job's burden. What dark truths awaited them as the ground split open, revealing the depths of what Job had unleashed. The ground convulsed violently, splintering and sending shards of dust into the air like a storm of petals. Breath caught in their throats as a jagged crevice opened wide beneath them, deep and dark. It beckoned with a sinister invitation, twisting the very fabric of reality. Job! Someone screamed, taking a step back. What did you do? Every eye turned to him, a mixture of fear and fury. Job stood at the edge, his expression a tumult of remorse and despair. I thought I could contain it. That we could control it. His voice broke, the desperation pouring out like a flood. But I was wrong. It's stronger than we imagined. The figure emerging from the void writhed and coiled, taking form a nightmarish silhouette, a tragic caricature of their deepest regrets. It towered, its shadow stretching across the group like night falling over a sunlit field. Their former sins reshaped the horror, faces of the past swirling in a ghastly ballet. Mrs. Whitaker's anguished sob broke the spell. We'll never survive this. She sank lower, as if surrendering to the very darkness they feared, her body trembling with the cold that seeped into their bones. You can't give up. Job shouted, his voice cracking. We have to confront it. The shadows feast on our weakness. But with each heartbeat, the shadows seemed to pulse louder, harmonizing with their racing thoughts. The air grew thick with fear, and panic rippled through them like a contagious disease. Would their darkest moments become their final moments? A scattered murmur began, each person recalling their past, the broken promises and fractured friendships. The walls continued to shift, the grotesque images morphing into familiar faces, memories pressing against their minds like punch-drunk warriors. Can we face it? Someone cried. Can we really confront ourselves? It's the only way. Job insisted, gripping Mrs. Whitaker's shoulder as if he could physically anchor her. If we stay united, we can find our way out. We have to. Moments stretched into an eternity as they wrestled with their own hearts. What if the truth was more horrifying than the lies they told themselves for so long? Could they truly find strength in confronting their demons, or was acceptance merely an invitation for despair? A hush fell over them, punctuated only by their uneven breaths. The shadows swelled, hungry and restless. For every secret they clutched, every guilt they hid, it seemed to grow stronger, waiting to feed on their vulnerability. A few glanced at each other, doubt writ large on their faces, eyes wide with terror. Remember, Job urged, voice rising above the anxious whispers. Our fear is just a reflection. We're not defined by our past mistakes. We still have each other. The shadows seemed to recoil, uncertain. As they tightened around the group, moments of shining clarity broke through the darkness, flashes of camaraderie, laughter shared, hands held in solidarity. It reminded them of why they were standing together in the first place. Now! Job commanded, and they reached out, trembling fingers intertwining, hearts pounding in a synchronized rhythm. Give it to us, give it to the light and let it burn. A surge of resolve exploded among them, illuminating the darkness in the chamber. But even as hope ignited, a searing tendril shot forth from the abyss, seeking to tear them apart. It enveloped them, its icy grip making it hard to breathe, harder to hold on to the flicker of light. No! Not like this! Someone screamed as the shadows writhed, but in that very moment, the ground trembled once more, and a voice, stronger and more omnipotent than before, echoed through the chamber. What will be your price to escape? Hearts raced, seconds stretching endlessly as they stood at the precipice of truth and consequence. Would they relent and let the shadows take what they desired, or fight to uncover the painful depths of their secret pasts? They clung to one another, veils of fear lifted ever so slightly. But as they teetered on the brink of revelation, one last shadow loomed closer, wagering its more terrifying truth. What deeper? Horrors lay trapped beneath them, just waiting for the chance to break free. The question echoed ominously in the chamber, cutting through the disquiet like a knife: could they survive the true cost of their freedom? The chamber shook again, more violently this time, as if the earth itself was retaliating against their defiance. The tendrils of shadow clawed at their skin, cold and unyielding. Lights flickered, desperation clawing at their throats, but then Job's voice broke through the chaos, steely and resolute. "Listen!" he shouted, eyes blazing with fierce determination. "It's asking for a price. What do we have to offer? We cannot let it control us." The group exchanged panicked glances, fear drenching their faces. Joan, a young woman with vibrant curls that framed her pale skin, balled her fists. "What can we even give it? It already knows our sins. It's one thing to face our pasts, but to trade them," said Marcus, his voice trembling as he edged away from the growing shadows. "What if it wants more? Lives? Souls?" "No." Job's voice thundered above them. "We don't give it what it wants. We confront it. Together. We need to remember the good. The love. What made us human." A figure loomed closer from the chasms of darkness, its face morphing, shifting like quicksand each time, revealing another haunting aspect of their collective failures. They could see flashes of betrayal, lost hope, and despair. For each person, the shadow showcased something different. Marcus, suddenly paralyzed, could only stare into the face that loomed for him, scornful, mocking. It wore his brother's likeness, twisted in anguish. "You abandoned me," it said in a voice both familiar and foreign. "You left me to die." "No. I didn't mean to. I was scared," he cried, the truth of his guilt crashing over him like a tidal wave. "It's about facing it, not escaping it," shouted Job, drawing the group's attention back. "Each of these shadows is a piece of us, a truth we buried. We can't let it tear us apart. We've survived pain before." As if sensing their weakness, the shadows rippled and writhed, a hungry monster eager to swallow them whole. The air grew thick with despair, a palpable weight pressing down as time stretched. Mrs. Whitaker broke the silence. "But what if the truth is too much to bear?" Her eyes were wide, glistening with unshed tears. "What if we can't be forgiven?" "Forgiveness doesn't come from others," Job responded, moving closer to her. "It comes from ourselves. We must fight. Look into its face. Let it see us. We can't let it grow stronger." Inspired by his words, the group began to echo Job's spirit. They remembered the moments of kindness, the bravery they often took for granted. Each recollected story surged forward like a flood of strength. With a collective roar of defiance, they stepped closer to the swirling darkness, hands joined tight like a lifeline. As their fear morphed into resolve, the shadows began to tremble, quivering, almost frightened by their unity. "It can only hold power if we let it," Job shouted, clutching Mrs. Whitaker's hand even tighter. All around them, the walls flickered in and out of visibility, as if reality itself strained against the truth their hearts were prepared to unleash. But as they focused on the moment, a deep rumble resounded through the chamber. A depth of rage and sorrow had awakened beneath them, releasing something ancient and dangerous. It was then that the ground split further, unleashing a blinding light that contrasted the darkness they faced. In that luminosity, a different figure emerged, one radiant and fierce, pulling them forward. It was not a monster but the essence of their shared strength, their united hopes. This new entity swelled before them, casting away shadows and exposing their deepest fears. Suddenly, everything shifted. The pressure enhanced, and Job's eyes widened in disbelief. "No. What is happening?" His heart raced as the figure morphed, speaking in thunderous tones, the shadows around them spiraling into chaos. What will it cost you to know the truth? With that question, the memory-laden figure unleashed a powerful wave of energy, and each member felt their past collide with a reality that demanded reckoning. They were teetering, hearts engulfed in trepidation and anticipation. It was the moment they dreaded, yet longed for. Were they prepared to pay the ultimate price for their freedom? And what awaited them in the blinding light? The blinding light surrounded them, swallowing the shadows whole. For a heartbeat, they felt weightless, suspended in an ocean of brilliance. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. But then the brilliance shifted, and from the heart of the light, a piercing voice boomed. The truth, it thundered, is not what you think it is. The group squinted against the brightness, desperately trying to grasp what was happening. Then, one by one, words started spilling from the figure that had emerged. Each word resonated with haunting familiarity, echoing the fears they had buried deep within themselves. Job felt a cold sweat trickle down his back as the entity pointed directly at him. You think you lead them, that you are their savior? He swallowed hard, confusion clouding his mind. But before he could finish, the light enveloped him, and scenes erupted around them, each brighter than the last. They saw the moment he had walked away from his sister, refusing to speak up when she needed him most. You left her to fend for herself, the voice pressed. And now you ask them to trust you. No, I didn't. No. I thought she was strong enough. His voice cracked, emotion spilling over. He felt like he was drowning in his own shame. The group froze, an uncomfortable silence enveloping them. Joan stepped forward, her eyes wide. Job, is that true? He couldn't meet her gaze, couldn't face the hurt he saw mirrored in her expression. As hesitation consumed him, the shadows recommenced their dance, swirling tighter, encroaching again on what little hope remained. Joan looked back at the entity. What do you want from us? The figure gazed deeply into her eyes. Your courage to face what is real. Every unspoken word, every hidden truth, bring them forth, and you shall be free. Marcus clenched his fists, suddenly jostled by his own revelations. What if we can't bear what we uncover? His voice trembled with the weight of memories he had buried for too long. Then you will perish, the voice declared, as if it were the simplest fact in the universe. The ground shook again, a violent reminder of the choice before them. Mrs. Whitaker found her voice and stepped trustingly toward Job. We all have our burdens. We can't face this without you. The shadows lunged forward, probing at her, an icy finger trailing down her spine. She shuddered but stood firm. Remember the joy, Job. Remember why we're here. In that moment, Job felt fragments of his heart rearranging, echoing like a drumbeat. The truth may be painful, but it was time to stand tall, to finally let go of guilt. You're right. His voice was quiet but filled with new strength. I need to face her. I owed her that much. As if fueled by his declaration, the light intensified, illuminating the chamber in gold. The energy of the group shifted. Joan and Marcus nodded, their hands intertwined, the bonds of shared sorrow igniting resolve. Together, they breathed in deeply, ready to unleash the truths they had buried. The shadows recoiled, sensing the shift. In one voice, they called forth, we choose to remember. Suddenly, it felt as if they were alive again. With each whispered truth, each confession, the shadows shrieked, dissolving like mist under the morning sun. Their words flowed freely, unveiling pieces of themselves they were once fearful to reveal, yet, just as they felt liberated, laughter rippled through the air, sharp and mocking. The light trembled as a new terror approached. Foolish mortals, the voice sneered, deeper and more sinister than the first. Do you think revealing your weaknesses will save you? The game has just begun. The group turned, heart racing, as the shadows reformed into something grotesque, blending into an ancient, monstrous visage. The true test lay ahead, but would they unravel in fear or stand firm against the rising darkness? What other truths awaited them in the depths of their own pasts, and would they dare to face the ultimate consequence? The monstrous visage loomed before them, a perverse blend of human fear and shadowy malice. The air thickened, heavy with an unspeakable tension. Job's heart raced, pounding in his chest like a war drum, urging him to flee. But he felt the weight of his companions beside him, their breaths quickening in unison. "What is this thing?" he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "It's the embodiment of your fears," the sinister voice crawled through the chamber like a slithering snake. "Years of guilt, regret, and pain. Are you ready to confront it? Or will you let it consume you?" Job swallowed hard. He could almost feel the spectre's icy breath, brushing against his skin, taunting him with his past. He took a step forward, trembling, but grounded by Mrs. Whittaker's hand squeezing his own. "Job," she urged, her voice steady, carrying the power of shared experience. "You can do this. We'll confront it together." The shadows swirled around them, the chamber pulsing with a terrifying energy that threatened to swallow them whole. Joan and Marcus nodded, determination etched across their faces. "We won't back down," Marcus affirmed, voice strong. Suddenly, the monstrous entity twisted in an explosion of darkness, shrieking with laughter that echoed, drowning out their resolve. "You think unity will save you? The truth is still yours to face alone. What will you reveal? What will your next move be?" Job felt himself being pulled into the depths of memories he thought he had buried forever. Moments flickered through his mind like a movie reel, the sound of his sister's sobs, the cold silence during her darkest nights, the moments he could have reached out but didn't. The weight was crushing. "Stand strong," Joan shouted, her voice piercing through his haze. "This means something, Job. You have to face it." Summoning every ounce of strength, Job inhaled deeply. "You think I don't know pain?" he shouted, surprising himself. The shadows paused, the air instantly crackling with tension. "I've known it, lived it, carried it like a cross. But I'm here now and I'm not running anymore." As he spoke, the shape of the entity flickered, its countenance revealing a look of mocking surprise. With each word Job breathed, the entity started to tremble, its darkness rippling like disturbed water. Maybe this was their power. The voices meant to silence them could be turned against their oppressor. "We choose to fight," Job declared, spurred by newfound courage. "You're just a manifestation of our fears, but you don't own us." A collective roar of defiance erupted from Joan and Marcus, echoing in their hearts as shadows shrank back, recoiling from the sheer weight of solidarity. They stepped forward, forming a united front. The light around them began to glow brighter, illuminating long-forgotten paths in their minds, shining clarity on buried secrets. "Face your truth," the voice hissed, fury laced through its tone. "Or be lost in the darkness forever." Suddenly, the chamber began to shift. Walls of shadow twinkled with the echo of unresolved pain, illuminating memories they had long hidden even from themselves. Moments flew by, despair, betrayal, isolation threatening to drown them in an ocean of regret. Joan's voice cut through the chaos, steadier than before. "What if we turn this around? What if we expose all our truths together?" He met her gaze. "Together, together," Marcus echoed, tightening his grip around both their hands. The shadows shifted uneasily, recoiling in fear of their alliance. They all closed their eyes, summoning the weight of their hidden truths, ready to unleash them, but just as they took a collective breath, the laughter surged back, booming and unyielding. "You think you can overthrow me? Your truths are a whisper against the tide." With a surge of adrenaline, Job surged forth. "Let us see who is stronger." There was no turning back now. As they took a step forward, the shadows writhed and seethed, morphing into sights and sounds of the past that screamed for recognition. What truths would they unearth? And in this battle of will, could they truly break the hold of the entity, or would they become lost to the very darkness they sought to defy? The shadows roared, twisting fiercely around them, a malevolent wind howling through the chamber. It felt alive with every regret, every mistake they were terrified to confront. Job's heart raced, but he felt clarity settling as his companion's hands gripped his tightly, anchoring him in the maelstrom. "We can't be afraid," he shouted, pulling strength from deep within. "Let us face this together." Their voices rose, a wall of defiance against the encroaching dark. "Together," echoed Joan and Marcus. With each word, the fear that gripped their hearts began to fracture. The entity howled in fury, swirling closer, its empty, hollow face mocking them with every flicker of their memories. "Bring it on!" Job yelled, stepping forward, his breaths deepening into fierce determination. Suddenly, flashes of memories erupted around them, shadowy images of guilt shifting into clarity. They stood not just as individuals burdened by personal darkness, but as a united force confronting demon after demon. "Here!" cried Joan, stepping into the light. "I've carried the weight of feeling unworthy, thinking I was the cause of so many broken pieces. I've held the guilt like a badge, but I won't anymore. I own it. It doesn't own me." As she shared her truth, the entity recoiled, shadows shrinking back as the vibrancy of shared courage began to fill the chamber. "I stopped believing in my own worth," Marcus joined in, his voice trembling but steady. "I felt responsible for everything I lost, I failed to protect my brother. But no more. I will not let the past devour me. I break free." With each confession, the essence of their fears became a tool, not a burden. "We're breaking the chains," Job shouted, his spirit ignited. "I abandoned my sister when she needed me. I thought protecting myself would protect her, but I see it now, my silence hurt her more. I can't change the past, but I can set it right. We are not slaves to our fears." The ground shook, and the entity roared, an anguished sound that reverberated through the chamber, but the group pressed on, unyielding. "I spent years running away from the truth," Mrs. Whitaker added, her voice raw but powerful. "Fearing my own vulnerability. But I refuse to be ashamed anymore. I own my scars, they tell of my survival." The walls glowed from the energy of their words, illuminating the path to their shared redemption as the darkness twisted and shrieked, losing its power with each revelation. "Face us!" Job cried. "We're not hiding anymore. Our truths are our strength." In a cascade of glowing energy, shadows began to fracture, giving way to brilliant blasts of light. As they stepped forward united, the dark entity writhed and twisted, the remnants of their past swirling like smoke in the wind. "Your truths mean nothing," it screamed, but it wavered, losing its foundation. The chamber erupted, shadows dissipating into the brilliance of their voices. The collective energy surged as they confronted the core of their fears, tearing at the darkness until it ruptured in an explosion of light. For a moment, they stood amidst the light, feelings of connection brimming, each individual a star joining a galaxy. Job looked at his friends, relief flooding him. "This was never about running from what we did, it's about embracing who we are, together." A final echo rippled through the air, a whisper of theirs that cut through the din: "We reclaim our light." As the last strands of darkness evaporated into the ether, a weight lifted from their hearts. Silence descended, heavy yet soothing. They breathed deeply, eyes wide as they surveyed the space transformed into a sanctuary of calm. Job's shoulders relaxed as he glanced around, seeing the faces washed in newfound hope. "We did it. Together. There's nothing we can't face," Joan echoed softly, her eyes shimmering with grateful tears. "Let us go home," Marcus added, relief palpable in his voice. As they ascended the staircase, each step felt lighter, a sense of liberation filling them. The shadows that had once threatened to consume them became lessons. They made their way back to the workshop. Full of warmth and purpose, back in the alive world above, under the glow of the stars, they were met by the vibrant town, their breaths mingled in the cool night air. The burden of secrecy was lifted. "Here," Job whispered, looking at the others, "we face tomorrow without fear." And in that moment, they knew their pasts would not define them. They were free. Together they resumed their lives, forever changed by the darkness they dared to confront. All the shadows remained behind them, flickering lights of history, but now they had a story to share. They turned to one another, their bond solid, each facing the dawn filled with possibility. As Job smiled broadly, he felt lightness in his heart, a promise that they'd remain strong through any storm. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important your support is for the channel.